What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Trevi here again from Vayl2 with another awesome battle report for you. And this time we are in Mark 3. The rules have finally dropped and we can get some games in and start getting some battle reports out to you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy the first battle report of Mark 3 that I'm putting out for you right now. This time we have a pretty classic matchup, Legion versus Cygnar, and it is the old Legion favorite, Vayl, the consul of Everblight, that's Vayl2, versus Lord Commander Stryker, my main man. Vayl's running a pretty cool list, I think, a big bit of a gun line with a Carnivian to back it up. That's 2 Ravagors and a Bolt Thrower, making up the majority of it, and then a Seraph. A maximum unit of Raptors, obviously taking advantage of Occultation, and Icy Grip there, and then 3 Blightedness Shepherds. So pretty basic Legion list, I think, from what you're going to see in the new edition. Moving over to my side, my Stryker2 list is one that I think I like a lot. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with it, but so far it's done very well. The list is 2 Centurions in Stryker's battle group. He's got a Squire attached to him, which I think is the best attachment for him. Madeline and Reinhold could be good, I guess, but the Squire is just sort of good all the time. There's also 2 maximum units of Storm Lances. Those guys being FA2 is a big deal for Stryker. He loves Reach faction models, and that is what those are. And especially their Electroleaps not hitting friendly models makes it super easy to get Electroleaps all over the place. So they're also even better at killing infantry than they were. There's also Catherine Lattimore in there to give those +2/+2 on the ranged weapons for the Storm Lances, as well as a Journeyman Warcaster, who I think is an absolute must with Stryker, and he has a Firefly in his battle group. So between the Firefly and Lattimore's Electrocharger, that's going to put those Stormlance guns up to POW 16, which is pretty impressive. So combined with Rebuke and just reposition on the Cavalry, they can actually put out some pretty serious firepower at range before they charge in and get a bunch of damage. Last but not least is Mr. Rupert Carvolo, just to give Pathfinder to whoever I need, or Concealment. The scenario we're playing today is Line Breaker. As you can see, there's the 4 flags there, 2 on my side, 2 on my opponent's, as well as some objectives. My objective for this scenario is a bunker, and I believe my opponent's is as well. It didn't really come into play. But obviously, Legion taking the first turn here and running everything up really far. He's going to get a lot of threat range up the board and be able to start shooting with a big Alpha Strike on the second turn. So unfortunately, really still want the... there's an apparition from the Seraph there. We forgot at the start of the game. Really want to go first against Legion to get that movement up the table. And a lot of times I'll take Anastasia Debray in the Stryker list in order to try to get that that extra bonus to go first, but I didn't end up putting her into this list. I think I ran out of points with all the Centurions in it. But she was in a previous version. Some slipstreams going down. I think we moved Vayl and we moved the Nephilim Bolt Thrower, who's running up right now. We missed Vayl's activation, but if I remember correctly, she cast an Occultation onto the Raptors and the Carnivian Spiny Growth itself, and that is the end of the Legion player's turn. So we're over to me, allocating focus to the Centurions just so they can use Polarity Field, although it doesn't actually matter this turn. There's no Angelii or anything in the other list to be very super long range. But we have Deceleration going on Stryker. He's hiding behind the forest in the middle there, which those Ravagors no longer ignore, so Stryker's actually going to be pretty safe behind that forest. Those Storm Lances moving up behind the forest as well in order to get some protection. And those Centurions on either side just blocking additional line of sight so that Vayl doesn't try anything sneaky. Lots of Storm Lances moving up. They're all going to be in Stryker's Deceleration bubble, so they're going to be pretty hard to kill. Defense 13, Armor 19. We have Arcane Shield and Dirge of Mists going down on that other unit of Storm Lances on the far side there, the unpainted unit. That puts them up to 15-22, so a pretty significant stat line. 17 defense on the hill against those Raptors that aren't on the hill, and I'm feeling pretty good about those guys surviving. We got another Apparition going down, and a Ravagor falling apart by accident. Whoopsie daisies. But I think what my opponent's going to try to do here is take out as many of those Storm Lances as possible. He's really got to make a powerful Alpha Strike with his ranged attacks here in order to limit the amount of damage that Stryker can do on his swing back. So we have the Carnivian, I believe, casting Spiny Growth on himself. I'm sorry, that's not Spiny Growth. He has Admonition on him. And moving up onto the hill so that Vayl can channel through him once she hits him with her Oraculus. Ravagor is shooting at one of the Stormlances. I think hits, but ends up failing to kill. With the Armor 19, there's no Wraithbane available in the list, so that Armor 19 is unavoidable. So the Ravagor ends up doing only a couple points of damage, doesn't kill that Stormlance, and that is very unfortunate for that Ravagor. Some more guns going up, doing the same thing. The Seraph slipstreaming over Vayl, it looks like, so that she's going to have range to the Carnivean. I believe she aims and shoots it, does 1 point of damage with her Oraculous on a really spiked roll, and then puts a chasin down onto those Stormlances, hits them, obviously ignoring the hill bonus because the Carnivean's also on the hill, dealing a couple points of damage to the unit leader, and then ending her turn. So unfortunately, no Icy Grip on those Stormlances today. She only had enough Fury for the Chasin. So those Raptors are going to be needing 10s to hit the guys on the hill. The Raptors that are on the hill obviously will hit pretty easily, well, on 8s anyway. But the ones off the hill needing 10s do not end up getting much done. One of them hits, but isn't really able to break through the Armor 19, and dings up the unit leader of the Stormlances a little bit, but doesn't end up killing him. So obviously not the first strike that the Legion player wanted here. The other Ravagor is moving into contesting range of the flag, taking another shot at the damaged Stormlance, ends up hitting and killing it. So we have one Stormlance going down, but I don't think that's going to be enough for the Legion player to mitigate the amount of damage that's going to come in, especially since that Carnivean is so far forward. And the Stormlance's threat so far that they're going to be able to get in on some of those beasts with the with Rolling Thunder from Stryker. This is the Bolt Thrower killing another Stormlance, so that is 2 Stormlances down so far. And then Shepherd's moving around to do some Fury management, and that... So it is the Cygnar turn. Obviously, it is time for a stupendous Alpha Strike. Obviously, the Legion player didn't do a ton of damage with his ranged attacks, due a little bit to some poor dice rolls, and it would not be conducive to the Cygnar trooper's health to take another round of shooting like that, even though it didn't do very much on the first one. Another round of shooting could potentially cripple these Stormlance units, so we want to get in there as soon as possible. And that Carnivean there is in range of the Centurion, so obviously we're filling him up with focus. I don't really intend to kill the Carnivean. Obviously he has admonition on him, but giving the Centurion a bunch of focus. And we have Stryker moving up and taking some shots at the Ravagor in the center there after getting Pathfinder from Rupert. But if the Centurion charges in there, that'll trigger an admonition on the Carnivean, and he'll have to move away to avoid being killed. And that's what's happening here. But we also have a positive charge on the Centurion there, so that the Stormlances can go in and mop up and finish off that Carnivean. So Ravagor admonitioning, moving away, and the Centurion's just going to use one of those focus to Polarity Field and save one for the feet movement. So the next part of the plan is that the Firefly is running up so that he gets his ionization on both of the heavies in the center there, the Carnivean and the Ravagor. And we're going to try to deal as much ranged damage on that Ravagor as physically possible. So to that end, we have Lattimore moving up. She's going to be able to take a shot at the Ravagor hitting, doing a POW 16, doing a little bit of damage. I think my dice rolls weren't super great on her, on the Ravagor there. Strikers definitely weren't. I think the Stormlances might make it up a little bit, but doing a significant amount of damage, E-leaping or lightning generating into the objective and the Bolt Thrower, dealing a couple points of damage there. And then we have the Stormlances close to the camera moving up, doing the exact same thing, just moving and repositioning. So we have 2 more shots going into that Ravagor. So this is obviously a ton of damage coming into this heavy here. Between the 2 POW 12s and then these 3 POW 16s so far, and then potentially some follow-up attacks from the feet, it's going to be a lot of damage. And the other Stormlance hiding behind the flag there, also just taking a random shot, I think. Stryker's moving up, and I think he's casting Arcane Shield back again onto Stryker, I believe, at this point. Keep Stryker safe, because he's going to be on 0 camp at the end of this turn. He used 1 focus to velocity back so he can get behind the forest. So hopefully that will keep him a little bit safer from Vayl's counter attack. But More importantly, here we have the Storm Lances going in. We have one Storm Lance charging into the Carnivian, taking its assault shot, doing a couple points of damage. One Storm Lance charging into the Ravagore, another assault shot doing some damage, not a ton, I believe. And then the rest of the Storm Lances have to divide their attacks up between the Raptors and the Carnivian. Obviously, with positive charge, these guys are going to end up doing a ton of damage to the Carnivian. We just have one Storm Lance going into the Raptor there, and then making sure to keep out of the 1-inch melee range of the Carnivian. That way, if I don't kill it on this attack here, which I don't believe I do, we have some assault shots happening. If I don't kill it on the initial attack, that'll still allow those guys to reposition without taking free strikes from the Carnivian with its 1-inch melee range. So one Raptor going down there to a Storm Lance attack, a bunch of damage going into the Carnivian from the rest of the Storm Lances. Obviously a POW 16 gunshot followed up by a POW 17 boosted charge attack. Here comes the repositions here, moving around the melee range of that Carnivian there so we can get closer to the Raptors and hopefully finish them off with the Rolling Thunder moves from Stryker. And I think to that end, speaking of which, we're going to take the Rolling Thunder moves right now. We have the Firefly moving up, taking an attack onto the Ravagore, who's been beat up, dealing a couple more damage. Centurion is finishing off the Carnivian there on the hill. So that is dead, which is good. And then the other Centurion, I believe we decided could not attack the second Ravagore. But the unit of Storm Lances is going to move over and take as many attacks on these Raptors as it can. Obviously, just engaging them is a pretty big deal. They don't fight particularly well in melee if they're engaged, and they can't really escape very well. But I do end up rolling pretty well. I need 7s to hit them, and I think I hit all of them. And between just attacks and electro leaps, I end up killing all but one of the Raptors. So those Storm Lances pulling double duty in there, killing a heavy, and then following up and killing a unit of Raptors is pretty impressive, or at least facilitating killing a heavy. But we have the other unit of Storm Lances moving up. They were able to move far enough up that they could get a couple of feet attacks onto the Nephilim there, and then one moving back towards the forest to keep it safe, and then Stryker moving back behind the forest. Now, things look pretty bad for Vayl at this point, so we're taking some apparition moves. So I think the plan right now is to kill Stryker, and that's what ends up being the primary plan of the Vayl player at this point. Unfortunately, and this was entirely serendipitous on my part, where I ended up putting, I had to cut out a pretty significant discussion phase of the game there, but where I put that Storm Lance that's next to the forest in front of Stryker is actually really annoying for Vayl, because she can't really get an arc node onto him without it being engaged by the Storm Lance, as long as the arc node is trying to get around the forest. So after some mental gymnastics, the Bolt Thrower, I believe, is the first to move. It moves away from the Storm Lance in the center there in order to take a shot at that Storm Lance, try to get rid of him. And between the damage that I already caused to him and the free strike from the Storm Lance there, he ends up losing his spirit. So hugely unfortunate. And then the same thing happens to the Ravagore that moves back there, and he ends up missing that Storm Lance as well. So some enormously bad luck on my opponent's part, but between the attacks from the feet and electro leaps and ranged attacks, we end up not being able to deal with that Storm Lance. So my opponent, we're sort of running out of options to get attacks onto Stryker at this point. Now, Vayl's Assassination Run is a little bit different now than it was in Mark II. It used to be in Mark II, you know, she would purify your buffs and then hit you with an obliteration, and then by an obliteration hit you again after an Icy Grip, ideally. And she still has Icy Grip. Seraph's, I think, just moving over to Slipstream Vayl. Vayl goes up and kills Catherine Lattimore out of spite. But Vayl now, instead of having Obliteration, has both Chasten and Darkstorm, so two nukes on her spell list. We've been Chasten's going down into Catherine there to finish her off, I think. And then the game is called. So Catherine Lattimore dead, but Stryker survives. And that is a victory in favor of Signar. But what the plan was there was that if Vayl was able to get an Arc Node into range, she could hit Stryker with an Icy Grip theoretically first, and then 2 double boosted Chasins followed up by a boosted Darkstorm. And it was a pretty good assassination run, especially since Stryker obviously would have lost his Arcane Shield if the Chasin hit. Stryker being 16/16 though is relatively difficult to kill, and he theoretically could survive the spells. Vayl would have to hit every attack made against him. So I believe what ends up happening is that she boosts her Icy Grip, and then she casts her Chasins, or she boosts the first Chasin theoretically, and then casts her other Chasins, just needing 6 to hit. So casting her other 2 spells needing 6s. So the dicey part there is trying to hit the 6s to hit Stryker, being defense 16 obviously. And if she misses the Icy Grip to begin with, it's pretty bad at that point. But had I had spent a focus to velocity, and had I not spent that focus, I don't think I needed the extra distance to get entirely out of the forest. I could have had the focus to reduce the damage roll by 5, which probably makes that assassination run not look so great. Or additionally, I could have stayed inside the forest, and that opens me up to some additional shooting, which could be bad, but also gives me +2 defense against Vayl's spells. But that is my first video of Mark II. A bit of an anticlimactic ending there. Unfortunately, we went through all sorts of, crazy machinations to try to get an arc node onto Stryker, but it wasn't really able to happen. The only potential angle that there was to run a Seraph into the forest to see through it, as long as you get 3 inches. But the distances were awkward, and you would have to take free strikes from 2 or 3 Storm Lances as well as a Centurion, I think. So the chances of that model surviving that was pretty slim anyway. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report, and I will have plenty more battle reports coming up from Mark III for you guys in the future, so stay tuned.